All right, all right. Get this going here. Start off by sharing the old screen here. All right, there we go. So, the topic of the webinar tonight is top three things you need to start a business. And I love doing these things. I wish I could do more of them. Unfortunately, my time has slowly but surely started dwindling as far as the amount of free time that I have. Between the 9 to 5 teaching and the business or two that I run, it's getting hard to find time to do these things. So we'll try to keep this one short and sweet. We'll leave it open for questions at the end. And I hope that you get something out of this because I think that it's important nowadays more than ever to, at the very least, consider starting a side business. So away we will go. So let's start off with just a quick financial outlook, right? The government made their decision the other day that they are going to forgive $10,000 to $20,000 worth of student loan debt based on whether or not you had Pell Grants in the past or not, right? I want to say that I may have had a Pell Grant when I was an undergrad. I'm not sure. I'll have to do a little bit of a deeper dive on that to figure it out. But either way, 10 to 20 grand is not exactly a huge drop in the bucket for a lot of people, especially in the healthcare field. Myself, I started out at about $140,000 worth of student loan debt. That was undergrad. I got a BA in English. I got a master's in physical therapy. That was from a state school, so that I was able to work my way through. And then added a transitional doctorate in physical therapy at a private school, and then an EDD, an educational doctorate at a private school as well, all totaling about $140,000 worth of student loan debt. So that was my starting point. It's gotten much better, but we'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. Two things I wanted to just kind of touch on real quick. Recession, right? What is a recession? We're hearing that word thrown around a lot these days. And a recession is a period of temporary economic decline during which trade and industrial activity are reduced, generally identified by a fall in the GDP in two successive quarters. Again, kind of hard to figure out the overall implications of that and if we are there or if we're going to stay there. But a depression, when it comes to economics, is a major downturn in the business cycle characterized by sharp and sustained declines in economic activity, high rates of unemployment, poverty, and homelessness, increased rates of personal and business bankruptcy, massive declines in stock markets, and great reductions in international trade and capital movements. So if we look at the two, right, the major differences in recession versus depression is that the recession is a downtrend in the economy for sure, and that can affect production and employment and produce lower household income and spending. And then the effects of a depression are much more severe, right? They're characterized by widespread unemployment and major pauses in economic activity. Again, currently the US seems to be sitting at a recession. Gas prices are high, grocery prices are high, right? Spending overall is down. However, unemployment is on the decline. And again, it's kind of hard to say the overall economic activity and where we're at. So, call it a recession. I think we're probably heading toward a depression if things keep going the way that they are trending. But at the end of the day, it shouldn't really matter which one we're in. There should be ways for any of us, especially those of us who've gone through extensive schooling in healthcare, should be able to take care of ourselves and our families. So, why are you here? Right? There's usually three main reasons that people look to figure out ways to generate more revenue, right? Because at the end of the day, there's only two main things that you can do to kind of get control of your finances, right? You can budget and cut all the corners and try to make all the savings that you can, right? On one end. And then on the other end, you could make more money or generate more revenue or income, right? Well, there's only so many coffees and Starbucks that you can cut out of your budget, and streaming services that you can cut out of your budget to save X amount of dollars. At some point, you can't cut anymore, right? You're going to have bills for water. You're going to have bills for electricity. You're going to have bills for, your rent or your mortgage. So those can't be lowered much lower than they already are at some point, right? Whereas the other end of the spectrum, right, generate more income or generate more revenue, has no bounds. It's limitless, right? You could make all the money in the world. There's no limit to how much more money you can add, right? So there's three main reasons that people generally tend to look toward the other end of the spectrum, like I do, and that's making more revenue. The first reason, generally student loan debt, right? There's people who have, like we talked about, 100,000 or more in student loan debt, and it's just kind of crushing them. And now, even with the government's, um, decision to, forgive $10,000 to $20,000, people are still going to have 100,000 and or more worth of student loan debt, right? And those are coming due soon, right? They've been on pause since COVID started, but they're realistically those loans are coming due soon, right? And we're looking at January of 2023 when those loans will start being paid back. And I'm hearing reports of people owing anywhere from 100 $150 a month to 700 $800 a month to several thousand a month. So it's all going to be pretty hectic come the new year. All right. The other reason is just credit card debt or debt in general, right? If people have this debt, this crushing debt, and they want to get out of it, well, then more revenue, more income is usually the answer, right? The second reason is generally a feeling of burnout or not being happy at work, right? Or just wanting to recession proof yourself, right? If we've learned one thing as of, you know, when COVID first kind of hit, even healthcare workers, even physical therapists are not recession proof. They're not recession safe, right? So, one of the things you can do is increase your skill sets to help offset that and recession proof yourself, right? Or maybe your 9 to 5 is just not fulfilling, right? You're feeling underappreciated, your skill sets aren't being highlighted, um, or you just want to have a bigger impact. You want to have something that really makes a difference out there. Excuse me. The final reason is, again, you just need more revenue, you need more money, right? Versus the other end of the spectrum where you're trying to budget left and right. Or you're just, you're ready to start that investment phase of your career. And so you're trying to increase your income and your revenue anyway and layer streams of revenue on top of what you're already making in your 9 to 5, right? Maybe your 9 to 5 is enough and it's relatively fulfilling and you're happy there, but you're just looking to make more money so that you can take that and invest it so that you can start making your money work for you instead of trading time for money, right? So, who am I? Why am I able to teach some of this stuff? Why am I the one talking to you today? Well, I'm Dr. F Scott Feil. For those of you who don't know me, at PTEducator on most of the socials. I've been a PT for 16 years. I've been a professor for the last 3. Um, I'm a husband, father, small business owner, author of PTEducator Student Debt Eliminator. I'm on the APTA's private practice section, education board. And overall, I just have a sick fascination with New York sports and apparently a self-determination to be let down time and time again. If you've followed any of my teams, obviously the Mets, the Knicks, the Islanders, the Giants, they've all done a phenomenal job of letting me down over the years. So, call it self-masochism, whatever it may be. I just have an affinity for those teams. And realistically, I've been doing my own thing in business for the last 5 years or so. And each thing that I do and each layer that I add all kind of comes down to one main thing, and we'll talk about that a little bit. The top 3 things that you're going to need if you're looking to start a business, number 1 is going to be your zone of genius, right? That's that one main thing that you focus on, right? So what is a zone of genius? It's something that you're really good at, right? It's something that you love to do, right? It's something that friends or family come to you for. It's something that is a certain level of expertise or authority. It can be a hobby, it can be a passion, it can be, just something that you have that people always come to you and ask you about because you just have the solution to that problem, right? So, if you look at this zone of genius, this thing that you're really good at, whether it be a hobby or just something you're an expert or an authority in, right? Can you turn that into a solution, right? Can you take this population, maybe it's a population you love working with, right? That could maybe benefit from your expertise, right? Can you be their solution, right? Because if you can connect A, which is a population in need of something, to B, which is their solution, right? You've got a viable business right there, right? So, the reason that you have to focus on the one main thing is that so you don't get shiny object syndrome, right? You've probably heard of that before. You've got people seeing things. Oh, I can do that. Oh, that looks cool. Oh, I could do that. Oh, I want to do that. Oh, they're making a lot of money doing that. I should do that, right? And people kind of tend to jump around too much. Well, that's okay. You can have different things, right? But they should all really focus around your one main thing in your zone of genius. So that's where I kind of do a little bit deeper dive, right? And the masterclass, that is starting up in a couple days here, but the masterclass really does a good job of honing in on your zone of genius in week one. We find out the one thing that you're really passionate about, that you're really good at, and we just do a deeper dive on that to figure out, is this something that you would love to do for many, many years? And is this something that is a viable option to be a business, right? Because if it's not something you're passionate about, if it's not something you truly care about, you're going to just give up when the going gets tough, right? And the other thing, too, is you may love underwater basket weaving, but if there's not really an audience for that and it's not solving a problem, then it might not be a viable business, right? So, the second thing that you need in starting a business is organization, right? Everybody thinks, oh, I should start a business. Or maybe some of you are thinking, no, I shouldn't start a business. That's not for me. There's too much involved with that, right? Well, the good news is a little bit of organization, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship and business, can go a very long way. One of the things we've seen as well after COVID is that the bar is very low. It's unfortunate, but there's just not a lot of people passionate about what they do. They don't like what they're doing these days, and they just feel like if I could just do my own thing and not have a boss, I would be so much happier. Well, okay, that's fine, but you can't keep talking about it. You got to get out there and implement. You've got to do, and in order to do, you need some form of organization, right? One big issue that people have is, look, how do I even get started, right? Well, it's different for every state, but one of the things that we help you with is finding the right business structure for you based on either a clinical business, whether you want to start your own practice, or an online business where you're offering some sort of service or education or something like that. The other thing too is well, how do I just offer that one thing? Like, how can I make that into a business, right? How can that be multiple things? Like, yeah, it can, like we talked about. You just kind of have to avoid shiny object syndrome, right? So you can do all the things like we talked about, but you've got to do them one at a time, get the revenue stream flowing before moving on to the next one, right? And then last but not least, with organization, you have to prioritize which of these revenue streams or levels, these layers of income that you're good at, right? And then two, you need to figure out which one I need to do first or which one's going to be most impactful, right? And which one do I feel like I'm the best at? Lean into that and then decide little by little if I should add other layers on top of that. Now, the way that we do this in the masterclass, again, we use the feel good method, which is not just a clever play on my last name, but it also is a system that it took me about 10 years to kind of simplify it, to get it down as simple as I could, to kind of show you the best way to organize these things and hopefully feel good about it by the time you're said and done, right? So we'll talk about that here next. This is the feel good method here. You can see here there's a big umbrella up top, right? That's your one main thing. For me, I would say healthcare education is kind of my umbrella. That's my one thing, right? In some way, shape, or form, I'm educating healthcare providers, whether it be for school or for courses that I've created or for business courses. In some way, shape, or form, it all comes back to healthcare education, right? So that's my one thing. This trough down here at the bottom is your assets trough, right? This bucket here that's dumping into the assets trough, that's your 9 to 5 or any job where somebody is paying you a salary of some sort, right? Each one of these is a different revenue stream or layer of income, right? And then all these little numbers here are your to-do list in order to get these revenue streams up and running and generating revenue so that you've got, some revenue dumping into the assets trough here, right? This little spigot here is you taking money out of your assets trough. Hopefully you're not taking out too much, but you take out what you need when you need it, right? Now, the other thing too to think about, like we talked about with organization, is prioritization. And the way that we do that is left to right, just like we read. This is my number one priority to get up and running. This is my number two priority. This is my number three priority, 4, 5, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So let's just take one, for instance, and say I wanted to start a mobile physical therapy practice. We would put that in this tube here, right? And we'll just use the one that I started called Epic Therapy and Wellness. It's a mobile physical therapy practice, right? That was my first ever side business or side hustle. And so in order to do that, I would need this here, right? So number one is file my articles of incorporation, right? So start my actual business, right? Number two, get my EIN or employee ID number. Number three would be to start a business bank account, utilizing all my business information from here. Number four would be probably something along the lines of get malpractice insurance. Number five, get the equipment that I need. And number six, start marketing or spreading the word, figuring out a plan of attack to get my first couple customers. So that's basically in a nutshell my to-do list, right? So that's the feel good method there, and that's kind of keeping things organized, right? Now, the number three thing that you'll need to start a business is capital and accountability. Now, there's good news and bad news here, right? The good news with capital is you do need some to get started. You can't just start a business from scratch, right? With nothing. I mean, you could, but it's a lot harder that way, right? The good news is you don't need that much capital to get started. Depending on the type and structure of business, right? $300 to $500 is reasonable to get started. I think in Texas, to start a PLLC or a professional licensed liability corporation, it was about $300, I think. On top of that, then I needed malpractice insurance, which again ran about $220 for the year. So I think it was all in all about $500, $550 for me. Now, I actually did not have that money to get started. So pro tip here, one of the things we did was we had a garage sale, and I sold a bunch of things on eBay and on Facebook Marketplace. And within that week, we had generated something like $1,800 or something like that. And so I was able to take, $500 or $600 out of that. And there was my seed money to get started. The other thing you kind of need, though, once you get a little bit of money, you get the business structure in place and all the documents and the paperwork done, you do need some accountability, right? So with accountability, one of the things we do in the masterclass is an 8-week program where it's a group coaching program, right? So you have, myself, and then you have other people within the group that are going through the same things you are, working through the coursework week by week. And so you're all kind of going through the journey together. Now, having that group allows you the accountability to show up every week and put in the work every week to make sure that you're hitting all the milestones that you need in order to start your business. Right? Because at the end of the day, that's the whole point of this, is to start a business at the very least, right? For the tax benefits and tax breaks that you get a loan, right? But the hope is at the end that you're profitable as well so that you can generate more revenue and more income as well, right? So the last part of the accountability phase is implementation, right? Imperfect action beats perfect inaction 100% of the time. And I'm always a fan of betting on the jockey, right? I'm a fan of somebody who's going to work hard, put in the work, put in the effort to make sure that they get some form of viable product at the end, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. We can fix it, we can work in it, we can figure things out. But at the end of the day, it's the type of person that we're looking for the masterclass. It's somebody who's just had enough, just ready to do something bigger and better and have a bigger impact and make a little bit more revenue. That's the kind of people that we want to work with. So that being said, again, the masterclass shows you how to get that seed money, right? Keeps you accountable to finish the 8-week program, and then have an actual business that makes money by the time it is done, right? So those are the top 3 things that you'll need in order to start a business, right? To get things up and running, right? If you do have any questions, right, you can DM me on social media, PTEducator, or email me at thepteducator@gmail.com. Here is the QR code, and here is the bit.ly link. If you want to apply for the masterclass and see if you're a good fit, I've got a bunch of discovery calls open for the next 2 or 3 days to hop on before the masterclass actually starts so that you can ask any questions and we can see, like I said, if you're a good fit, because I don't work with everybody. Not trying to be elitist here or anything like that. It just has to be a good fit for the both of us. And like I said, I'm a bigger fan of betting on the jockey, right? You could come to me with a great idea, $1 million idea, but if I feel like you're going to not do the work and you're not going to show up and put in the time, then, it may not be the best fit. So, if you do have any questions, like I said, feel free to DM me or shoot me an email. And if you'd like to sign up for a discovery call over the next few days to see if you're a good fit for the masterclass, I'd love to work with you. Like I said, my biggest thing is just helping people try to generate a little extra revenue so that they can work in their zone of genius and with their passion and what they really love to do, and make sure that they're not leaving the field of physical therapy just because it didn't work out for them, or it seems like it's just too much or it's too daunting, right? Because I truly believe that physical therapy is a great field. However, you have to leverage it to be what you want it to be and what you want to make of it. So if you're not leveraging it appropriately, if you're not working in a setting that you want to work in, I'm a much bigger fan of finding a place or a location or a setting that you love, even if it means taking a bit of a pay cut and then supplementing that difference in what you want your pay to be and where you're at with some other side business or side gig. So that's me. That's my take on things. But yep, very true, exactly. Like I said, there's so many opportunities out there that it blows my mind that people are sitting here complaining about the current situation they're in, when you can literally go and make whatever lifestyle you want. You can make whatever situation you want out of a great career, out of a great profession, out of a great degree, out of a great license. So, in my mind, that's just, where we're at and where we can go with it. A lot of the side businesses and side gigs and side hustles that I've done kept one foot in the boat of healthcare. And I think that that's a viable option. I don't ever recommend anybody just jump in full force, both feet, and get rid of, their 9 to 5. Can that work? Yeah, absolutely. I've seen people do it. Works all the time. It's just not my style. I may never be able to leave my 9 to 5, right? My story is a little bit different than most people because I am the sole, breadwinner for my family. And I carry the medical benefits, right? Which is important for my wife, who's a stay-at-home mom and a type 1 diabetic. So I have to have that 9 to 5, those golden handcuffs, if you will, of medical benefits. And luckily, my 9 to 5 affords me great benefits. Teaching at the university has been wonderful. I enjoy it. Again, it kind of falls under that umbrella of healthcare education, so that's a good fit. But that's just me and my story. If you wanted to start a side business while working a 9 to 5 and slowly grow it and grow it and grow it till it just became so big and you were too busy, you had to leave your 9 to 5. Well, congratulations. That's awesome. I hope that happens for everybody, because that would be the best and the ideal outcome, I think. But if not, it's okay to just keep it as a side business as well. Like that works too. You just have to figure out what works for you. And it's more important to build the lifestyle that you want and then build the job and the business around that, as opposed to fitting in a lifestyle in amongst your work and your job. So keep that in mind. Any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll address those. But also, if you weren't able to make it live, like I said, feel free to shoot me a DM on any of the social medias or shoot me an email at thepteducator@gmail.com. Absolute pleasure doing these. Like I said, I hope I can get to do more webinars in the future because I really do enjoy them. I've just got a lot of speaking gigs coming up over the next couple months. So I just don't know how much free time I'm going to have because a lot of my free time is getting eaten up by travel and speaking. So thank you all for attending. And again, I appreciate you guys and look forward to hearing from you guys in the near future.